Welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time to talk about sports, the PGA Tour, the NFL news. I'm going to break it down to you as simple as possible. I'm not going to try to linger on any story. I'm not going to make this 3 hours long. There's just not enough time in my brain to just overlaps over and over again. But I do want to talk about one thing. The PGA Tour is back, and these two yahoos are back. So we got to talk about Koepka and Patrick Reed are back. Again, Patrick Reed won't be in the league with promotions and all that until 2027. And he'll be able to play in the PGA Championship, I think, in 2026, later part of the year in August. Koepka is another story. He is in the tournament of Farmers Insurance, one of the first couple in tournaments of the year, and this is kind of a big news, kind of sad news and everything else with it. A lot of people are still bitter about Brooks Koepka initiated back into the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour kind of didn't really miss him at one bit at all, because last year in 2025, the PGA Tour had a boost of 22.5% of viewership, and Live Golf is taking a sinker down the toilet, basically, right? So what does this say about these other athletes coming back, these other golfers coming back to the PGA Tour? It is a bit of an obnoxious thing to allow some guy like Koepka, who made over $100 million, probably had to give some money back to the Live Golf because he wanted to be back to the PGA Tour, cancel out his Live Golf contract. So this guy made over $100 million joining the Live Golf. And I think this is something that most Americans will say. I mean, you bailed on us. You made us look stupid. You thought making $100 million was going to be beneficial to you. And instead of you not branding yourself, you decided to jump ship to Live Golf. And a lot of people, I'll tell you, I really could care less if Brooks Koepka came back. I think that the PGA Tour is doing really well with Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, and even Tommy Fleetwood, who won the FedEx Cup last year. So the PGA Tour is doing something well. They are putting themselves the money into the TGL tournament, the virtual golf on ESPN. So it looks like they're doing the proper thing. It looks like they're moving away. They know that they have the upper hand in Live Golf. They know that American televised people are just not going to put their money and effort in Live Golf. And to be honest with you, I think even the European television is losing money with Live Golf because the background of the Saudi Arabians' treatment of people. And how do we always keep talking about this? Because it's about morality, ethics, and the nitty gritty. So I do think that the Live Golf is just going to dwindle to nothing. And I think what's going to Patrick Reed, I think he's a bit of a coward to say, I've always been a conservative. I've always been a true American. I want to come back home to the PGA Tour. And I think that's just kind of hogwash. You weren't making money. You weren't winning. No one was watching you. So you had to jump ship with Koepka. So, and it's just convenient that if Koepka came back, it sounds good for him to come back. So he can underneath the rug come back without any huge announcements. All right. If Koepka didn't come back and Patrick Reed and a couple of these other guys who are making their comeback next year, Peter Perez, Kevin Na, and Hudson Swafford, they're coming back in 2027, and their popularity isn't going to be big because no one really missed them one bit. Okay, but with Brooks Koepka coming back, it sounds better. Like, hey, look, I'm coming back to the league, and it's great. 5-time major champion, is coming back too. And I won the 2018 Masters. You know, eventually PGA Tour will be able to live without Koepka and Reed and these other players, because if they put their money into uh, uh, younger, established players coming from college, they'd be just fine. And I think that the one guy that they probably really should consider is this guy is Dechambeau, and I think Dechambeau, he understood that he's going to be the most hated man in golf for a while. But you know what? He has his own YouTube page. He's got over 2.58 million subscribers on the channel. He knows how to talk about golf, be a golfer, and everything else. Uh, he's got over 246 videos, and he just knew how to brand himself. Do I think that a lot of these other golfers like Scotty Scheffler and Roy McIlroy will give him a hard time for coming back in the future? Yes, I think they will, and I think they should. But in reality, the PGA Tour kind of needs this guy because he is kind of doing really well, and he's really, I mean, he's good. Like he won in 2020 the U.S. Open and 2024 of the U.S. Open. So he does have credentials. And for some reason, you know what? People like him. I think he's a typical American male who is, you know, bigger and stronger than most guys who can golf. And he's kind of like Happy Gilmore. Doesn't swear and cuss, but he pouts on the golf court when things don't go his way. He overshoots his shots with the driver. He's always in the bunker, and that's what most Americans are like. They're going to say, I'm going to try outdrive this bunker 320 yards. And you know what? Full well, most golfers can't do that. And DeChambeau, you know, I would say 6 out of 10 times he can do it, but he still sets himself up to fail. So I really don't think that even if he's even if he comes back to the PGA Tour in the future, I still think that he may have uh, mind control problems for himself against Scotty Scheffler. I think Scotty Scheffler is probably the most balanced golfer in the league right now. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of more surprised that the PGA Tour, they don't try to push his face onto some form of the PGA logo. Like I don't have them on my image of my podcast. So that's something to consider for most a PGA Tour, Live Golf. I think the one thing I do wish that Live Golf and the PGA Tour would do better is the fact that they should have certain golf courses outside the United States to play in. I think that would be intriguing to watch. Certain to go to not just to Ireland or not just the British Open or the Scottish Open, but maybe somewhere in France, somewhere in I don't know, the Czech Republic, somewhere in Australia, somewhere out there where you're just never going to see these golf courses ever. And you're never going to see that. And I think that's what I really wanted to see if Live Golf in the PGA Tour. You know, that's got to be their motivation. Uh, I would try to stay away from anywhere away from any President Trump's golf courses, because having an association to a president isn't really good for sports itself. Politics and sports should be separated in one point or another. And I know a lot of people is like, well, you talk about Live Golf and how they're a Saudi Arabian a group and they mistreated people. But yes, that's where the money's coming from, supposedly. So, but I do think that the PGA Tour could take uh, some notes by the Live Golf, maybe play in shorts for and like an all-star weekend uh, event, a premature tournament between the Americans and the Europeans. I know that we have uh, um, I think we have the Ryder Cup and another cup I can't remember, but but it'd be kind of interesting to see what would happen if you just put uh, uh, certain players together, certain logos. And that's another thing that the PGA Tour could put together is like teams together. Maybe not every week, but maybe like every once a month, where they, if it's a very slow weekend and no one's really watching golf and no one's really watching sports, you would put that on there. You would put teams together where you have the USC team or some collegiate uh, platform where you get a bunch of these golfers who are the Big Ten and the SEC playing together on the weekend, and then one of the amateurs is an amateur golfer in the in those school systems. So that's an option, and that's an opportunity to make golf more interesting because the team setting is kind of fun to watch. The TGL has that team setting, and I think that will take off in the future because someday people are just not going to be able to afford to go golfing every other weekend, and they're like, you know what, it's just too hot. But I do think that golf should, golf will make a comeback eventually because it's just going to create more a- adversity for all people to play golf. I think that's really positive. In other news, I got to talk about this other news stuff, folks. Let's talk about Bill Belichick in the NFL. He is denied first ballot of the Hall of Fame. A lot of people are upset by it. LeBron James and Tom Brady and whoever is out there, even Patrick Mahomes and whoever cares about the New England Patriots. But you know what? I'll tell you this. I think the reason why, two things that happened. I think one, the Patriots are in the Super Bowl against Seattle. And I think that had to do something with the fact that they denied him into the Hall of Fame because obviously he was the Patriots. He won 6 Super Bowls in New England, 2 as a defense coordinator and with the New York Giants. So he has 8. So he's the most decorated coach in the NFL, hypothetically, if you want to look at it that way. But I do think that one of the factors was that the fact that the Patriots was in the Super Bowl. I think it was the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl. I think it would have shifted a little bit, but again, you got to go to the Deflate case and the Spygate in 2007. I mean, that was pretty obvious that he cheated. He had people watching film and all that. This is the same thing that got um, Jim Harbaugh in trouble in college football. It wasn't so much that there was a video; it was so much having people and players in certain spots of the sideline that weren't supposed to be there. But with Belichick, he basically cheated and took video and used illegal footage to make it to cheat in that season. So that in itself is probably why he was denied. And I think again, I think that Bill Belichick's personality doesn't help a lot. It just doesn't help a lot. When I mean by that, like he's not a people like person. He's too much about football, too much about rules, too much about um, objective about football. He doesn't smile. He's always frowning. His girlfriend's way too young for him. I mean, it's just his personality just does not fit someone like Bill Carr or even McCarthy of the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach, or even Mike McDaniel of the Seattle Seahawks, which is another phenomenal story that we could talk about for the Super Bowl between the New England Patriots and Seattle Seahawks. But even like Mike Vrabel is much more. He has much more of a personality, and you could talk to Mike. You can talk to Mike McCarthy, and you can talk to other coaches like even Dan Campbell. even if Dan Campbell wins the Super Bowl, he'll be approachable to talk about other things about football and about life and all that stuff. Bill Belichick is one dimensional. Football, football, football. Not good for football. Not good at all. He's just, if he had a Tom Brady attitude, where Tom Brady probably knows something about Spygate and knows something about about Deflate, and Tom Brady can always deny that, but his personality of the knowledge of football and the way that he's able to address it to the rest of the crowd, and as he does commentary, is why he's pretty much a decent person to listen to and appreciate. You may not like him because he's a New England Patriots or a Michigan football alumni, but he's approachable. He's approachable. Smiles a lot. He smiles a little bit too much, in my opinion. All right. We got to talk with Detroit Lions. Man, I've been trying to stay away from this story. I've been trying to, do something with this. But, Detroit Lions, folks, there's something that's going on. I don't really understand what's going on with Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. They just recently, obviously, hired Drew Penzing as an offense coordinator. And I'll put this story. I put these images up. And now they just hired Mike Kafka to be the offense sideline coordinator. I guess this is what I don't understand. You got two guys. You guys, there's been word that Mike Kafka will be drawing up passing plays. Where I made a podcast about how Drew Penzing is pretty good at what he does and with throwing to the tight ends, and he had a Trey McBride, and one out of three passes was to a tight end. And in 2024, the ranking was the eighth in offense with the Cardinals. This is Drew Penzing. And his experience with the Minnesota Vikings from 2014, 2019, just kind of elevated his potential. Now, I will say in 2025, it took a hit for the worse because the Cardinals weren't doing so well. However, if you go to Mike Kafka, you see that he started in Northwestern as a quarterback. He lost his job as a starter for a while there. He was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles as a backup quarterback in the fourth round under Andy Reid as a head coach. He becomes a quarterback coach under Coach Reid and Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. They win the Super Bowl. They won Super Bowl Super Bowl 49, 59. No, was it? Well, they won Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes in 2018. I don't know how to read Roman numerology, but they win the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes in 2018, and then they lose it to the Tampa Bay a couple years down the road. So, but the qualifications for Mike is the fact that he was under Andy Reid in Kansas City. Here's the question for most people: why wouldn't you just hire Mike Kafka in the first place and not hire Ben Penzing? I mean, Drew Penzing. He looks like a Ben. I don't know why. He looks like a Ben. But Drew Penzing, why would you hire Drew Penzing and then hire Mike Kafka? It's just going to be a power struggle is what it's going to be. You're going to have one guy doing one thing, you got another guy doing another thing. You're going to get two guys competing to make Dan Campbell happy. And then you're just going to make the whole staff of the Detroit Lions, along with the defense coordinator, with Shepard, upset if Detroit can't move the ball downfield. You're going to make David Montgomery even more frustrated because he's not touching the football still. And then if you don't throw the ball enough to the tight ends, what are you doing? I mean, if you're going to write up a script on how to screw up your offense, this is the way to do it. This is the way to do it. You either make sure that Drew Penzing is in charge of the whole shebang. They going to have Mike Kafka write up the plays long before the season starts and long before the games of week 1 to the week 18, and they're going to have to stick to those, just to stick to the game plan. And that means that they're going to have to allow Drew Penson to take full charge of that team, of the offense coordinator. And during half times and during the week, you're going to have to allow Kafka to put his 2 cents in. But I don't see how that's going to work. I think they just made it more of an issue than anything else. Uh, I kind of wonder if I don't know what they're doing. I mean, Kafka, he had opportunity for interviews uh, of for 2023 for Carolina Panthers, Houston Texans, and the Indianapolis Colts. 2024 Tennessee Titans, Seattle Seahawks. 2025 Chicago Bears, New Orleans Saints. Maybe that's why they didn't go with Kafka in the first place. Maybe because they know that he's just going to leave. With Drew Penzing, maybe he's just going to stay. Maybe that's all he's going to do. He's just going to stay. I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get why. How come? And I get it. There's a lot of guys upstairs writing things down, doing analytics. I get it. But when you get two guys who are offense coordinators who make plays calls, you're going to get a moment of time where you're going to be pushing each other's buttons, and to be not to and not to not mention, you're going to create problems for Jared Goff, because Jared Goff is a stable quarterback. He's not going to run. He's not going to move around the pocket that much. He's just going to stand there. And then one of the best things that Detroit Lions will have to do is look at offensive line guys. And I really do think that they'll have to draft offensive line guys, obviously. But they're going to have to go to free agency. And they're going to have to sign players. They're going to have to. The best bet for Detroit Lions is this: is that they're better. They're at this point of their development, is that they need to sign free agency as offense line guys, because you want veterans on that offense line. You don't want rookies learning how each defense line guy is like. So you don't want them to go blindfolded with rookies trying to defend a quarterback who's not mobile. So Detroit Lions should really go after free agency off offensive line guys that know what they're doing, and then allow the rookies come in and certain plays, those certain drives of the game, and then establish them through the years coming in. Hockey, they do that in hockey all the time. They draft guys all the time, but they don't start them right away unless you're a phenom. Okay, but and same thing with Major League Baseball. They don't start those outfielders, infielders, pitchers right away. That's why they have the minor league system. It's a true story. But I'm telling you, Detroit Lions will have to think about what they want to do. They need to go to free agency, grab at least 2 or 3 offense line guys to replace Skipper and Decker. Decker is probably leaving, and Decker really wants to leave, by the way. So Decker is going to probably leave. He doesn't want to, because he doesn't want. I think he's got like a faithful personality about his ideology of being that guy that he doesn't want to disappoint the rest of the team, because they already know Skipper is gone. So I would strongly, for Detroit Lions, sign 3 offensive guys in the offseason, free agency. They're going to have to draft at least 2 offensive line guys, and maybe the 3rd round draft pick is another cornerback. That's what they're going to have to do. That's my projection. That's what they should do. And I think that Dan Campbell, God bless his soul, and Brad Holmes, I think you guys shot yourself in the foot by hiring two guys who are going to compete with each other, Mike Kafka and Drew Penzing. You shot him in the foot. You just gave Drew Penzing the most unconfident feeling inside his gut. You just hired me, and now you hired this guy. What are you doing? It's like it's like it's like if Detroit Pistons signed Isaiah Thomas, and then they went out to free agency to sign Magic Johnson. Who's going to run the offense? Isaiah is a better shooter than Magic, but they need the ball in their hands. It's a bad way of looking at it. A lot of people have just lost all of you guys the way I just put that together. But peace. Look, folks, please follow, subscribe, wherever you are. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on Apple, YouTube, the Patreon, and I might even try to do a live thing on Twitch. I don't know. I don't want to do live. All right. Peace, love. I'm out of here. Let's go.